Very good morning. This presentation is brought to you by Resonate International with a mission to leverage knowledge worldwide. The topic being covered is floods in Spain, accountability and lessons for a world at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, the devastating flash floods that swept through southern and eastern Spain in October serve as a stark reminder of the vulnerability even advanced nations experience in the face of natural disasters. In a tragic turn of events, the Valencia region endured unprecedented rainfall, with numerous areas receiving over 300 liters per square meter. In Chiva, the rainfall peaked at 491 liters per square meter in just 8 hours, the equivalent of an entire year's rainfall in a single night. As the world watched in shock, torrents of water surged through cities, leaving destruction in their wake and claiming over 220 lives, with dozens more missing and thousands forced from their homes. This disaster, the deadliest flash flood in a European nation since Portugal's 1967 catastrophe, not only highlights the immense cost of underestimating nature, but also poses urgent questions about preparedness and governance. These floods are not just an environmental tragedy. They underscore the pressing need for resilient infrastructure and decisive action as we confront an increasingly unpredictable climate. Spain endured similar catastrophic flooding in 2023 also, with up to 200 liters of rain per square meter within hours, submerging cities like Alicante and Murcia. Damage reached an estimated 2 billion euros and thousands were forced to evacuate. In response, the government leaders pledged to upgrade urban drainage systems and fortify vulnerable areas, committing 1.5 billion euros to improve climate resilience. Yet, by 2024, it became painfully clear that these measures were not fully implemented. Financial and administrative obstacles delayed projects, and critical infrastructure improvements were left unfinished, leaving regions like Andalusia and Catalonia to face another year of destructive flooding without adequate safeguards. The floods also revealed long-standing infrastructure vulnerabilities that have compounded Spain's exposure to climate events. Spain's rapid urbanization over the past few decades, particularly in regions along the Mediterranean coast, has led to unregulated construction in flood-prone areas. The Ministry for the Ecological Transition reports that over 40% of Spain's coastal land is highly vulnerable to flooding. Yet, zoning laws have failed to account for these risks. These developments continue without proper drainage systems, creating a dangerous mix of urban sprawl and inadequate infrastructure. As a result, the crisis extends beyond the environment It underscores the critical need for governance reforms to prioritize sustainable urban planning and enforce stronger building regulations. In the aftermath of the 2024 floods, local authorities faced widespread criticism for delayed emergency responses. In regions like Andalusia and Catalonia, emergency alerts were late and evacuation orders inconsistent. A recent audit by Spain's Civil Protection Agency found that local governments lacked a coordinated response framework and outdated communication systems delayed life-saving information. This led to tragic losses that might have been mitigated with faster response times and more streamlined communication between federal and regional agencies. The imagery of submerged Spanish towns and rescue operations in what is typically a tourism hotspot surprised many. This is Spain, a European Union member known for its strong public systems. That such devastation could unfold here and twice in 2 years has raised serious questions both locally and internationally. The protests that erupted in the wake of these floods reflect growing frustration, with citizens demanding more transparency, accountability, and action from their leaders. In recent surveys, over 60% of Spaniards voiced dissatisfaction with the government's disaster preparedness, underscoring the need for reform. The European Union's limited response to these floods has drawn criticism as well. While the EU has a disaster relief fund, the average time to disperse these funds is over a year, often arriving long after the immediate crisis has passed. Furthermore, the lack of a unified EU-led climate resilience strategy leaves member states, especially those in high-risk zones, without the necessary support for long-term climate adaptation. Given the shared nature of climate risks, a proactive EU-wide approach could not only strengthen preparedness but also foster a collective response that transcends national borders. While climate change undoubtedly intensifies extreme weather, it is essential to look beyond environmental causes. The European Environmental Agency projects that climate-driven floods could increase by up to 30% by 2050, but inadequate infrastructure, inconsistent policies, and a lack of preparedness compound these risks. Blaming climate change alone diverts attention from governance issues, which can and must be addressed now. Stronger zoning laws, sustainable construction practices, and well-funded disaster response plans are urgent needs that cannot wait. What is the practical way forward? The 2024 floods provide a clear roadmap for global action to strengthen climate resilience and disaster preparedness. Lessons drawn from the Spain's experience include the following. First, invest in smart infrastructure. Develop and upgrade stormwater management systems in flood-prone areas, especially in coastal cities, using advanced forecasting technology and real-time monitoring to prevent catastrophic overflows. Second is prioritize sustainable urban planning. The governments should enforce stricter zoning laws and land use policies prohibiting construction in high-risk flood areas. Emphasis on green infrastructure such as parks and wetlands that can absorb excess water would further mitigate flooding. Third, enhance early warning systems. Rapid response communication and systems must be modernized and standardized across regions, ensuring timely warnings and evacuations that save lives. Spain's recent audit underscores this as a top priority for avoiding response delays in future crises. The fourth is strengthen EU-wide coordination. The European Union can play a critical role by establishing a unified disaster resilience framework, funding infrastructure improvements across high-risk zones and facilitating immediate cross-border assistance. Faster access to EU disaster funds and a dedicated climate adaptation task force would represent meaningful steps forward. Fifth is demand accountability in governance. Public leaders must be held accountable for disaster preparedness and management. National and local governments should be transparent about their plans and provide regular progress updates to the public, fostering trust and enabling public oversight. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the floods in Spain are a sobering reminder of the costs of inaction. As climate risks grow, so does the responsibility of leaders to prioritize proactive, resilient, and accountable governance. This is not merely a Spanish issue or a European concern. It is a wake-up call for the world. Building a resilient future requires facing hard truths, making difficult decisions, and committing to sustainable practices. The message is clear. The time to act is now, and the responsibility lies with each and every one of us to advocate for a world that is prepared for the challenges ahead. Good luck, best wishes, and God bless.